All right, so our narrative writing unit lesson 4 is all about how to create a dramatic ending for your narrative story. So by the end of this lesson, that's what you should be able to do, or at least you should have some ideas for how to do that. And of course, by the end of the whole unit, you're going to be able to write your own narrative story. Okay, so writing dynamic endings. I'm going to go over a few different examples of ways you can have a really strong dramatic ending. One way is to use dialogue. So some of you chose to start with dialogue as your opening hook. Another option is you can use dialogue as your ending. So to end your story with dialogue between your characters. And there's just an example here to show you Grandpa talking to someone else in the story. But you would just use quotation marks, you would use a dialogue tag, but using dialogue as your final ending to your story is one strategy. Another dynamic ending you could use is an action. So again, that was also an opening hook you could choose. This is a way you could end your story by describing an action that your character is taking. So here's an example of that. I drove off into the sunset, confident that I would continue learning about my own strength. So they're talking about how they're driving off. So it could be any action that your character is taking, and that's like your last line. Third is using irony. So you could end your story with an ironic moment. Now, some of you have, I bet most of you have heard of the word irony, but you might not know exactly how to use it when writing a fiction story. I do have a short little video to show you. And so we are going to watch
Hey guys, it's B. Hanley here again, and today we're talking about 3 different types of irony that can be used in literature or stories. The first and most common type of irony is called situational irony. Situational irony is the type of irony that normally people are referring to when they talk about irony. Situational irony means the opposite of what you expect happens. For example,
what do you want? Oh, for me? Why, I don't know what to say. Hit the road, Bucky. Ow! No, don't. Ha!
The second type of irony is called verbal irony. Verbal irony is also known as sarcasm. Basically, verbal irony is when you mean the opposite of what you say.
I like my privacy.
You know, I do too. That's another thing we have in common. Like, I hate it when you got somebody in your face, you trying to give them a hint, they won't leave, and then there's that big awkward silence, you know. Can I stay with you?
What?
Can I stay with you, please?
Of course.
Really?
No.
The last type of irony is dramatic irony. In a story, when the audience knows more than the characters in the story, that's dramatic irony. Let's take a look at this example in the clip.
No harm will come to you in the reptile room.
There's a type of situation which occurs all too often in the story of the Baudelaire orphans called dramatic irony. Simply put, a dramatic irony is when a person makes a remark and someone who hears it knows something which makes the remark have a different, usually unpleasant meaning. For example, if I were to say, I can't wait to eat this almond cookie, but there were people around that knew the almond cookie was poisoned, that would be dramatic irony. For that reason, when we hear Uncle Monty tell the children,
I promise you, no harm will come to you in the reptile room,
we should be on guard for the unpleasant arrival of dramatic irony.
And that's it for types of irony. Irony is used in a story to convey tension, surprise, or character traits. And usually, you can see all 3 types of irony played out in any story. I hope this clarified for you the different types of irony found in literature and stories. And next.
All right, guys. So you have a few different types of let me X out of this. A few different types of irony to choose from if that is an ending you want to go with. Okay. So that's a harder one to do. So if you want to challenge yourself to end your story in an ironic way, that's something you can certainly try. Make sure you kind of know how to use it. But that's one of 3 types of endings we've gone over so far. So remember, we've gone over dialogue as an ending, action of your character as an ending, and irony as an ending with an ironic moment. A 4th way to do a dynamic ending to your story is to have a reflection. This is very common in stories or even in movies. So have your character reflect back on their feelings about something that previously happened in your story. I think that one might be the easiest one to do for a lot of you. You've probably seen it used the most. And number 5 is a full circle ending. Okay, so what a full circle ending is you have to kind of use this at the beginning of your story too. So you might use a phrase in your first paragraph, and then at the end of your story, you're going to use that same phrase or a very similar phrase or idea at the end of your story. Okay, it's kind of like the signpost that we learned about in the beginning of the year again and again, where an author is repeating something, but it has a purpose to it. So you as the author would say something in the beginning that you're also going to repeat at the end, almost to like sandwich your story and to show that whatever you're saying is important. So good writers use a full circle ending to connect the beginning to the end, to make you remember something that you brought up right at the beginning. So they give an example here. At the beginning, they might say rookie, beginner, freshman, newcomer. Call it what you want, but I was definitely the new kid on the block. I was a first-year teacher, but I was determined to act like an expert. I was a professional in the classroom, and I would hit nothing less than home runs. No strikeouts allowed in my classroom. At least this was the idea, up until I met the curveball that I couldn't seem to hit. So that was the beginning of this person's story. But then at the end, they bring it back around to the idea of the rookie. So they said at the end, I had to face the facts. I was a rookie and I had struck out to the stapler, but I decided to bounce back and step up to the plate again. So just the idea of using the same phrase or concept at the beginning that you do at the end. That's a full circle ending. Full circle is you kind of start in one spot and you come back around to where you were. And so those are the 5 types of endings, dramatic, dynamic endings that you can use when you are crafting your story today.